welcome to the Brianna Christine podcast, episode number 2. And I'm really excited. It's on mastering your one thing and why you need your one thing. Some of you might know that I've been going through this book, The One Thing, The Surprisingly Simple Truth to Achieving Extraordinary Results by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And it's just done so much for me that I had to bring you the best little snippets and share those with you. And then I'm trying something new today. I'm incorporating my other most favorite book, the Bible, and what the Bible has to say about all these wonderful findings. So I hope you enjoy this episode. So last weekend, I went with my husband to the air show on Saturday in Miramar. We live in San Diego, and it's just absolutely amazing to see what these pilots are doing. They're just doing these crazy stunts where they're twirling and falling and going high up in the air and dropping way down, and I'm just amazed, wow, that's got to be incredibly terrifying, yet they have to be so confident because they're doing it so well. And the announcers are talking about how these guys are going to be at multiple shows this year, and I'm like, how cool is that? They get to practice these stunts. I don't know when they have time to practice all these cool stunts, and then they get to show them off. And I'm wondering, how are they able to do such a fun, cool thing? Wouldn't it be cool if we all got to do something as amazing as that? And I think a lot of people do, the ones who really know what they want and they pursue it with everything. That was the conclusion that I came to. And you think about how much time it takes. Not only are they having to take the time to master these stunts, but they have to train their bodies to be able to handle those types of drops and spins. And so the announcers were talking about how in this guy's free time, when he's not flying airplanes, he's climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, how cool is that? So I wanted to investigate this topic a little bit further and kind of apply it to the book I've been reading, The One Thing. And I just absolutely loved this quote. I mean, there are so many good quotes in this book, but my favorite one was probably, "Be like a postage stamp. Stick to one thing until you get there." I mean, it's so obvious, but for somebody like me who has a million passions, it's but that's so hard. What if that one thing doesn't turn out to be the way I expected it to? Or what if it turns out I'm missing out on something else that's more fun? Like that new thing, FOMO, fear of missing out. That's totally me. I feel like the more I've been reading this book and the more I think about my own life, I realize that it really is better to stick to one thing, and it is more fulfilling. If nothing else, my marriage has showed me that more than anything. But I wanted to know, what does the Bible have to say about this concept of the one thing, mastery? And I kind of wanted to bring it from my perspective and my life as a wife, my life as a freelance designer, my life as just somebody that's trying to pursue passion and bring wisdom to people. And I know for the ladies, if you do attend church, I attend North Coast Church over here in San Marcos, and I love my pastors, Larry and Chris, and they always have great things to say. But sometimes, for us ladies, we just need to hear it from a woman, and sometimes it has a bigger impact. I also just saw this movie with my girlfriends, The War Room. Absolutely amazing. If you have time, go see that movie. It will change your life and your prayer life. Okay, so synonyms that kind of go along with mastery are endurance, perseverance, and the ability to withstand hardship. And I know that mastery definitely requires all of these things. I was going through the concordance in the back of my NLT study Bible and kind of where does it talk about mastery? And there wasn't really anything specifically in my concordance that said mastery, but these other words, perseverance, endurance, those were in there, and so I was able to study that, and I have some great scriptures to share with you. And it will help you obtain mastery in all areas of your life. So just for reference, I'm using my New Living Translation Life Application Bible. So that's where all my scriptures are coming from today. So, endurance. Romans 5:3-5 says that endurance helps us build strength of character. Early on, working with my first couple freelance clients, I learned that I was going to have to endure a couple quote-unquote bad clients unless I wanted to change careers. I was going to have to stick it out for the good ones. And bad clients are clients that can be difficult to work with for multiple reasons. Whether they don't like your process, I would say most of the time it's because they don't want to pay you. That's probably the worst. Sometimes it's this, you have disagreeing ideas about how the design should be done. But the thing you should know is that the quote-unquote bad clients can teach you things that you don't like about design work, so that you can use that knowledge to manage your stress and make processes easier, like creating a client questionnaire or using a contract. So as long as you see those quote-unquote bad clients as like stepping stones along the way until you meet good clients, and those good clients make you feel like, oh yes, now I remember why I'm doing this again. And when you're working with those clients, you'll have those processes in place that you learn from your not so favorite clients that will make you appear really professional when you give them your client questionnaire, when you give them your contracts and stuff like that. This was the next thought that came to my mind. If endurance builds strength of character, and endurance is enduring things that are hard, enduring things that you don't want to do, that's why it helps you build strength of character, then Jesus must have been the ultimate example of this. And of course, that was the very next reference, that Jesus had the ultimate endurance. And Hebrews 12:1-4 says something to the effect of, keep your eye on the prize, Jesus, salvation. Jesus is our example of endurance. He's like a champion. He's like an Olympus, like when you idol somebody and you're like, I love you. You're such a great example of an athlete or a business person for me, or of design. It's someone you look up to. You're like, wow, if only I was like you. That's what Jesus is when it comes to endurance and mastery. I've never thought about him that way before, but he totally is. He's the ultimate example of mastery, of obedience and discipline. Hebrews 12:1-4 reminds us that we should look up to him for that, because he didn't lose sight of his purpose, which was to save us. So when you're in a situation where you feel like it's tough and you feel like you're going through a little bit of suffering, try to keep your eye on the goal, your purpose, so that you can show perseverance and love when you're going through a situation like with your client or with your spouse, but you feel wronged. You feel like, I need to show them that they're wrong. Well, as long as you set your eyes beyond that obstacle, instead of getting mad and giving up, when you use your perseverance and your endurance, you see beyond that obstacle, you'll see that giving up and getting mad is not the only option. Okay, the next scripture I have here is that endurance leads to perfection or mastery. And let's just clarify that mastery is not giving up. If you want people to be in awe of your own high-flying talent, kind of going back to that Miramar Air Show example, you must endure a couple bad designs, not so favorite clients that want you to do certain things that you don't like, or maybe there's that one professor in college that just doesn't get your design style, or you kind of disagree with them about the way that things should be done. Enduring that short-term obstacle and persevering through that is going to lead you to the endurance, and it just makes you look more professional when you can say, hey, I went through the hard stuff, because really anyone could go through the easy stuff. Nobody's really that impressed by people who can go through the easy stuff. It's the people who can go through all of that tough stuff and get through to the other side that you go, wow, that's awesome. And to kind of go along with that example of longevity, is endurance is like a vitamin or a supplement, as it says in 2 Peter 1:6. We can see here that it's consistent, that the Bible is confirming if you want to be really, really good at something, the number one key trait you need to have is endurance, a key element of mastery. And you think about what vitamins do for you. They keep you healthy. You want to have endurance to supplement your mastery. To really, really drive this point home, to be effective with your endurance, Revelation 1:9 says endurance needs friendship. You're going to have to surround yourself with people who help you keep sight of that thing you want the most. Find people you feel are really good at everything that they do and spend a lot of time with those people. This will help you adopt good habits when you want to reach your goals, because you'll see what it looks like, and then when you're wondering, gosh, you're going through something hard and you're like, how do I get through this? You can use that person, that model you have as an example, to say, oh, that's what they did, and so that's what I need to do in this situation. The other word that the Bible talks about, not as many times as endurance, but also goes along with mastery, is to persevere or to have perseverance. And it describes this as to persist in a state, enterprise, or undertaking in spite of counter influences, opposition, or discouragement. And do you face some of these things when you pursue your passion? Because I know that I do. A lot of counter influences. My passion is to have sort of this non-traditional job. Nobody really understands that, and that can be a little difficult. The other thing was discouragement, and if you don't receive this from anybody else, you receive it from yourself, right? Like your brain is constantly like, oh my gosh, like I'm scared. How is this gonna help me? Like what if people don't like me? What if this doesn't turn out the way I want it to be? Or what if this is leading to nothing? What if this is ultimately meaningless? Like Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, and we'll talk about that. But endurance and being righteous is hard. It's like unobtainable, Brianna. How do I obtain this unobtainable thing? And why would I want to suffer through all of that when I could just be having fun and living life in a way that's fun? And Ecclesiastes talks a lot about this. It says, sorrow is better than laughter because it has a refining influence on us. There are certain times it's time to let go of a client or it's time to let go of a project, but that doesn't mean you have to give up your one thing or your one person. 1 Timothy 6:11 says that perseverance is the founding building block of becoming righteous. If righteousness is the goal of a God-centered life, you could read the passage this way. Perseverance is the founding building block of becoming a great designer if you live a career-centered life. And perseverance is the founding building block of becoming a loving spouse if you have a family-centered life. All of those things could be true at once. The point here is perseverance is the founding building block of becoming closer to your goal. Some people have told me that I have a lot of maturity for my age, so it would seem. And to anybody who does tell me that, I tell them that that's probably because God has placed me in a lot of very difficult situations, but He showed me the way out. So when there is laughter in my life, it feels really good. Another thing that comes from the book of Ecclesiastes is that finishing is better than starting. Going back to my marriage, my husband and I will kind of see people in the dating life and we'll look at each other like, gosh, I'm sure glad that I have you forever now. Because there's a time when dating is fun and starting to date somebody new is fun, but when you start over and over and over again, it kind of feels old. Now when we're married, we feel like it's nice to have a new goal to perfect the relationship that we want to be in for the long haul. And even though it's been hard, it's been worth it in every way, and I know in time that I won't regret sticking through the tough times. Ultimately, the number one takeaway is, why do you obtain mastery? Why do you obtain endurance? Because it is evidence. It says endurance is the evidence for salvation. How else can we talk about endurance and how it is evidence? When we show endurance in maintaining one profession and then finding ways to make that profession progress, others will see that as a sign of mastery and success. Another example is when we show endurance in serving our spouse till death do us part. That will show others evidence that our marriage is strong and godly. Taking the action to act on those beliefs and following through, that is the evidence of mastery. So here's what I want you to take away from this today. Whether you feel like you have no passions in life or you feel like you have so many that there's no time, take time and write down everything you do in a week. Narrow that list down to your number one person, your number one job. Come up with a couple ways that you can pursue only those things and how you can do those things better today that will, in the long run, give you endurance and perseverance. All right, thanks for joining me today. It was so much fun to bring you this. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I'll see you next time in the next episode. And I have one thing that you could do for me today. If you could go to briannachristinedesigns.tumblr.com and share this with someone that you think that could really benefit from listening to this episode, that would help me and them a lot, and I would really appreciate it. So thanks again.